Hi, hello, and how are you? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That Rockwell timepiece says it is time. So come on in and stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. I continue to be a brand ambassador for Rockwell. And if you go to rockwelltime.com and use the code Coach20, you will receive 20% off of any order there on that website. Like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show here on Facebook. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, but don't forget to hit that bell so that way you'll receive notifications when content and conversations like this are uploaded. Also, watch us on DBTV Monday through Fridays and also Saturday afternoons as we have an opportunity to be seen in over 300 million households around the globe. And this network is a first of its kind, and I'm thrilled to be a part of that. Also, catch us on CSTV on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. and also catch us on the Rewind Sports 60. No matter how you consume the Coach Scott Field Show, I'm honored, humbled, and grateful. But what I'm also honored for is to have a 2022 Indiana Sports Hall of Fame inductee as a member of our show, former NBA referee Teddy B. Teddy Bernhardt, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much, Scott. It's always a pleasure to talk to you or stay in touch. But an honor to be inducted, but more importantly, just to be a Hoosier.
Amen to that, right? And matter of fact, you're in
Yeah,
Lafayette right now, yeah?
I'm in Lafayette right now. Ran into the mayor, Tony Roworski, who we graduated with. Uh, so he decided to put me up here at Columbia Park at the new Lowe Stadium. There was a baseball practice, was a game going on, but yeah, it's really beautiful facility here. It's across the
Oh,
street from the old custard ice cream shop back in 1932. I think it opened.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
know. So it's always great to get home. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Well, I love that. And before we get started, I'm supposed to give you a shout out from Mike Platt, who said it's been many years and hello, and he misses those Evansville days, he said.
Mike's a great guy. It's great that he shouted out. I'm looking forward to hearing from him again.
There,
I'm
there,
sure I'll follow up.
there you go. Got to do that. Well, Ted, you were a referee in the NBA during some tough times. I mean, the league was so physical, and you had a lot of enforcers, and the physical play and the style of play was so much different. Because I think you started in the NBA back in 1988, and what do you remember coming into the league when there was just such a physical style of play, and how hard and challenging was that for you as an official coming into that arena?
I think just coming in back then, uh, both Magic and Larry Bird were still active for 2 years, and just to go on the floor with those guys, just awesome. But the mentors that I had back then were all Hall of Fame referees, and by their leadership, it made it easy to step in, and they protected you.
And who were some of those guys who you considered mentors, who kind of took you under their wing and kind of helped you kind of get used to travel and going from city to city and you know
Just
just
about
becoming
all
good
of
at
those
your craft?
guys. When I walked into my first training camp and I looked around both rows, it was full of just Hall of Fame referees. Earl Strong, Ed Rush, of course. Uh, Not to mention, probably my main mentor was the boss who hired me, was Daryl Garrettson. He was leading. So Jess Kersey, huge impact. Wally Rooney, class act. I can just go on. Dick Bavetta, the rules. So every one of them made a huge impact. Hugh Evans, my brother, rest in peace, was a great mentor. So
Gosh, man.
you had every, yeah, I think somebody asked me one time, who's your mentor? And I looked at him, they said, oh, you didn't have one. I said, yeah, every one of them were mentors, to me. So yeah, that's what pretty much I adapted through that. My first game was in Chicago, and I think New Jersey was playing, I was out there the first quarter, coming up through the old tunnel, to get in. And then the first quarter, I believe I blew my whistle once. And at the end of the quarter, there was a complete train wreck. It was Jordan coming in, Pippen, and I just froze at the lead. The lead position is the one under the basket. So with that, I just had a whole crowd of boos falling in. And I stood out there the first time out. I was just laughing to myself, like just saying, like, well, I know it could get better from here. But I remember that so clearly, even still today, how bad I was that first game.
Oh, great memories right there. You talked about mentors, and you had sent some great pieces to me prior to the interview. Talk about how mentoring is going now for today's current referees, and what your observations are from your chair and through your lens.
Well, mentorship to me should not be for profit, number one. But I mean, I understand business, and unfortunately, basketball has become business, whether it be youth sports, and that's my real passion. How basketball affects youth, right? Like yours. So I guess that mentoring should be an old person reaching down and helping somebody because they love the game, because it's the right thing to do, and at the same time, you have to have receptive people. But it seems like mentoring now is all going this way, the opposite direction. Like it's almost like a kiss upward system trying to move up versus a mentor's going down and finding the right people.
See, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that the Good Old Boy Network has always been around, no matter what industry and walk of life you're in. But with you putting your finger on that pulse, it's nice to know that there's authenticity and there's still a realistic view to be able to earn to get to that spot, to earn those stripes and blow that whistle.
Yeah, it's a long process, but now it's all changed. You have people that grow up as kids, they want to be American Idol. That's their only goal. It's so sad. But the same thing with referee. You have guys that are real young wanting to be a referee because they know it's a profession. Instead, they love the game. And it used to be like they just found you, or a lot of animals referee. Back then, I call animals because they would go anywhere, referee anything, just to get games, to be better. And not everybody's shielded by the AAU or by whatever league, and nothing good's happening there. Pretty much, it's just a business. There's a few kids coming, but still, it's not the fundamentals of Europe. So the question we need to ask always is what's best for the kids instead what's best for their basketball program.
Yeah, see, I like that. And as you know, I'm all about, passing the baton and preparing these youth for life lessons, so that way they're prepared for life, because you and I both know it's a competitive business out there, no matter what, business or what industry you're in. And I feel like we paralyze youth by enabling them and just throwing them into something that maybe they don't have the skill sets, the experience or knowledge or expertise to even get into. So for me, I love what you talked about there, talking about, going back to the youth, teaching them where they're at and providing them a roadmap or a pathway to success, so that way that, it can have endurance and it can breathe.
So much has came out of Kobe, here recently, and so many things he said that were brilliant. But number one was something I was doing and didn't realize it, that you've done too, is you have to love the process, right? You have to love the process. You have to be able to figure it out on your own, your process, instead of asking somebody, "Hey, did I do a good job?" Or "Hey, what do you think? Can I move up?" No, man. It's about how you figure your path, right? And that's all self-driven.
Yeah, I like that. And I know too many people put so much emphasis on just the outcomes, but like you say, if you're in love with the process and you enjoy the journey and you're growing through those journeys and through those processes, you're going to build character, and you're going to build those life lessons and skills that you're going to need to continue to endure. So I'm glad that you talked about that.
No,
Gosh,
correct. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I,
No,
I,
I
I,
said, like I said often, when you're a Hoosier, when you're from Indiana, it's just a basketball game. There's real problems in the world. There's a war, there's disease, there's hunger. I mean, I could go on. And so you always keep that in mind. Your faith, and it's a basketball game. You
There
know,
you go. I
easy one.
like that. I
Yeah.
like that. I like that. And talking about today's game and talking about society, another point you brought up, and I love this. When you see social media and you see some of these memes and you see some of the dangerous things that are put out there about referees who are just out there trying to do their job, everybody's human. We're all going to make mistakes. But for to be under such a microscope and to have these keypad warriors type up these things from their phones or from their laptops, when these men have real life and real life situations and families, and to receive these threats, how do you feel about some of the things you read on social media towards referees and umpires and officials and guys who are trying to do a good job?
There's a real need for an effort towards sportsmanship again, because that's why the game was created. The game was created with Christian values or whatever faith, goodwill, right? So people enjoy basketball worldwide. So it's not that point, but that's why it was kind of created with that in mind. And then where it's gone is just ridiculous. So, you know, uh, that's the main point. We need to do things what's best for the kids.
Yeah, I like
For
that.
example, with fans, I see some horrific things as everybody has. Coach coming out and fighting a referee, fans jumping out of the crowd and fighting somebody, fighting the referee. Real serious. I've been in gyms where there's been someone's got a gun, and everybody exits the other end. So, the danger now is, the uh, just the anger that's out there, and people have guns, and not that they shouldn't have them around a basketball game. That's for sure.
That especially when we're trying to teach lessons to the youth and grassroots AAU basketball, I agree. If someone comes on the court and they physically assault a referee, I'm sorry, that's criminal. They should be put in jail immediately, because there is no time for that. And then what lesson are you teaching the youth by physically going out there and assaulting a referee who's there, probably could be volunteering or just getting minimal money just to try to provide you know a
Right.
platform for kids to learn and grow the game, and these imbeciles come out there and are assaulting and punching referees. I've seen it myself from the East Coast, and
Yeah.
to me it's shameful.
Right. Right. No, exactly. It starts right there. The NBA. Well, remember we had physicality in the game and the bad boys in that era, right? You were mentioning early. And the NBA said, "Hey, wait a second, this is coming all the way down to the youth leagues." And so they changed the rules and they put an emphasis on physicality. And with that being said, I think the same focus should be done with sportsmanship. The score a basket, the guy's too little, and they're behind by 10 points. Come on now, what are we teaching? And
Yeah,
then, score a basket, and the kid at 5 years old is going like this next to his opponent. So all the NBA has to do is put a emphasis on that, and it'll filter right down to the youth leagues again, where people start assessing the situation. What I saw was here recently, for example, I saw where both two terrible things that happened in women's basketball by both people. One girl for Louisville, and the other girl for South Carolina, maybe. And both of them did, things that were unsportsmanlike. And I remember a day where teams were up by 15, 20 points and somebody was taunting somebody and we would throw them out, you know. But because this girl had done it before and everything, all that translates to youth sports. And what it translated there taught me who's supporting one side, who's supporting the other side. And as parents are encouraging their kids or thinking it's cute, I don't know. But, all we have to do is put an emphasis on it. And I think it'll bring the game back around.
Yeah, kids today, they emulate what they see. And when Sports Center has their top 10 and you start seeing all of this and, people pointing to the ring, well,
Exactly.
we're old heads. We just say, hey, look at the scoreboard. Because again, back in our day, that was definitely going to be a butt whooping if we would have pulled something like that on the field. So I love the fact that you're thinking big picture. What message are we sending the younger generation who we can pass this wonderful game on to, so that way, the right message is being sent?
I mean, it's
Sportsmanship,
not.
character matters.
I mean, we all celebrate the Joker. We watch him play. How's he get it done? And he just runs up and down the floor and plays, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's wrong with that? We celebrate him, but then we want our kids to act in a different way. Welcome to the AAU.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, Ted. Good stuff right there. Let's talk about, we talked about mentoring. We talked about the social media stuff. What about the importance of referee recruitment? Talk about how vital it is for this game to grow the right way, how important it is for gentlemen like yourself or a Derrick Stafford or a Joey Crawford who's been on my show, who takes time and give back, Bob
Man,
Delany's and those guys. Talk about recruitment of quality referees who can come up through the process the right way, and what that means for the future of the game.
well, I'll tell you, there's so many guys doing great things from Joey. All the guys you mentioned are doing some wonderful things. And I mean, here at Lafayette, I understand that these guys have a program running at Purdue that's putting out some great referees. So it's happening all over. It's just really good to see. Uh, Everybody's helping out everywhere. But we need referees with IQs. We need ex players. We need guys that just love the game, have always played, but maybe not that great, Uh, but right now, it's a lot of people just getting into it for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they love the game, they just don't know the game well enough, or
Yeah.
you pass it to somebody at a camp, and you say shoot the ball, and you realize that I can't shoot a basketball, and yet he's trying out to be a referee. So there's a disconnect, maybe.
I
Uh,
agree.
and I try to tell them that refereeing is an aspect like a player. Coaching's 24/7, right? And as a referee, you're competing like a player. So if you're a guy that loves to compete, you're competing every possession to get the right angle, to get the right view, and you're running back down the floor to do the same thing. So the entire game is competing like a player. The game's over. You can watch film to improve, which is very, very, very important, right? But you know, it's not a coach's mindset. It's more of a player's mindset. That's
Yeah.
why it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you touched on that, because I've been blessed that, I take the time because I'm such a historian of the game and I like to build relationships. And so for me, to be a better coach, I wanted to have a better understanding of the referee and the referee's lens. So I like spending time with a Ronnie Nunn and, a Bob Delany, and see Joey Crawford at the NBA Summer League, and watch what the NBA is doing to assess the referees like yourself, who a lot of people think you guys just go out there with a whistle and run up and down. You guys have preparation. You guys do your physical training. You guys take care of yourself. You guys are being evaluated and assessed after each game, because there's an official who's monitoring you guys. Talk on that, because I don't think a lot of the casual fans know and understand the assessment and the process that you guys go through, and the rigorous evaluations, and how you hold yourself accountable. Talk about that for a second.
First of all, the guys you mentioned are the ultimate competitors, and they themselves, I myself, competed with ourselves more than anybody. That's number one. And not to be afraid to make mistakes. You know, most of these guys are all just courageous guys you mentioned that get out there and didn't care. But the whole process for some people, uh, being on film, to have to watch yourself on film, not to look for things that are good because you're expected to do that. So you're only looking for criticism, right? And that itself is an art form for some people. But it's just that the whole process is uh, back in the day. It's probably changed some, but back in the day, Daryl Garrettson had invitation camps, and the NBA had a couple of things. Everybody was involved in pro am, and with me, it was Chicago was having an invitation camp, and I think I read it somewhere. So I called Chicago, and I think it was a referee magazine. I called Chicago, and Ruben Norris is the one I'm directed to. It just turns out that Ruben Norris is from Evansville, Indiana, which is where I graduated from. I have family still. And so Ruben said, you need to call the NBA. It's an invitation camp. So I called the NBA and talked with them. He said, well, who told you? Oh, so I said, well, Ruben Norris did. You know, so that and he ran the parks in Chicago. Just a quality guy. I would have stayed with him up in the high rise in Chicago. We did the South West Side games, but Ruben, Ruben's name got me in. I drove up the South Side. Daryl Garrison sitting there by himself with all Danny Garrett's and the guys are either just about ready to get in, and 100 referees plus. And I walked in not knowing anything. So Daryl Garrettson is my main guy because on the second day I got my 1 quarter. The guy said, just make sure you can run and blow the whistle. So I went out there, I was running and blow the whistle. And for the first time that weekend, Daryl came out of the stands that I was there the whole time. He had to come out of the stands. He came out of the stands twice to tell me where to stand. And then next year they picked me up into the CBA, which is now the G League. And so everything, Daryl is probably, my father passed young, unfortunately. So I really didn't have a mentor, but I was looking, and Daryl Garrettson probably was my main, everything he said was almost, biblical, so to speak, for refereeing.
Oh man, I love that. But I love the fact that the thing that I picked up from you, you were holding yourself accountable. You were going to be hard on yourself and assess yourself after each game or after each call. And I'll tell you what, the people who can have accountability and have that transparency, I love having those conversations when I'm as a coach on the sideline. And if I don't abuse you or berate you, and I'd be like, hey, Teddy, hey, what did you see right there? So that way I can communicate it to my players. So that way, I try to get my players to focus on their game and their role and don't try to officiate. That's not their job. Just do your job as a player. But if I can help them see through you with a civil conversation, I think that's great, especially if we're not yelling and screaming at each other or trying to, outshine you or show you up. That's never going to work in any form of communication, whether it's a personal relationship, professional relationship, or a coach and referee on the sideline. Let's just have a discussion. Hey, what did you see right there? Did you see that, that bump, or talk about that with how you enjoyed interactions with coaches during the game and the heat of battle.
The coaches were quite a challenge early on, right? Every time you move up in a league, you have to earn respect. And uh, he coming into the NBA, Kevin Lockery was a lot of fun because he would set, he would set you up. He would say, hey Ted, what do you think? I'm 3 games into the NBA. What do you think? That was goaltending, didn't you? And I said, no, I didn't think. Well, what are you looking at? He sets you up every time, and so I learned how to respond to him, keep my mouth shut. Uh, but later on, when you get to be a veteran and they trust you, I always tell the young referees, if they know you're hustling every play to be in the right position, they know the rules. They know you're getting high percentage of calls right as to what league you're in. Then they're going to give you a break. And there's times when you be honest. I remember a game where I had a play and I called a third foul against Dirk Nowitzki. And probably I had had a bad call for maybe a while. I was refereeing halfway decent. So, uh, I'm already mad at myself. He starts to yell at me. I'm yelling at myself. So he gets quiet. He's running down on the floor. Now I get in front of Don Nelson, right? He starts to try to yell at me. I'm yelling at myself. Don, I'm already mad at myself. I was running by, whatever, right? And yeah, so kind of handled like that. But they know, you know, you can be really honest like that.
See, I like that, and you know
Larry
what?
Bird. I mean, hey,
Share a
no,
story.
I was just saying, from Larry. Well, no, Larry Bird from early on. You just learn these guys, and they're just straight up competitors that want to win a game. So as that translates, I go to Puerto Rico in the off season. I'm refereeing that league down there. That's so tough, and you work. And I'm sure we'll get there. But what I learned was you would compete. I throw guys out. We had fights coming out, but beer bullshit with police escorts, whatever. And yet everybody would meet up in the mountain in Calle at Martin's Barbecue or the Martinez Hamburger Spot that only had cokes, beer, and billowing smoke coming out. But we just had a war, and both teams stopped there to talk. And they're having a beer later. So you learn it's just a game. We're competing. The game's over. Jerry Sloan, probably the coach I love the most, respected the most. Number one, from Evansville, University of Evansville. But I learned that he was one of the toughest guys, supposedly the toughest guy ever in the NBA. He would fight, right? So, Jerry and I knew we were both in the same school. Kathy, his daughter, and I were friends from the university. But I learned the game was over for him. He would see you somewhere. Hey, tell you whatever, and just a man's man. Jerry was. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned Puerto Rico because I too coached in Puerto Rico as I was, being a FIBA head coach and had some great experiences down there because those are some passionate fans. But what I want to talk about because
Yeah.
love the stories you just shared. Talk about in the 80s and early 90s when the game was so physical. I was told, and you can probably confirm this, I was told that you as referees were trained to how to go in and throw your body between the players who were having the altercation and separate the players. Talk about that and
I
how were
think
you trained to separate a fight?
I go back to, well, I played rugby in college, so I kind of like the physicality. But I learned early in refereeing that one guy goes in normally. Now I'm watching games or watching mentors and seeing who goes in. And I see Jess Kersey be one of the guys that goes in. Jess had no business going in. Neither did I. But somebody had to go in, and I always try to get there early enough to prevent something. You know, uh, the first one I remember is Reggie Miller versus Michael Jordan. I believe it's a holiday game. Uh, games go along fine, but those two guys are John. And Reggie's trying to make a name for himself. So this game's going along. As I recall, Jordan or Miller scores, and as he's running out of bounds, he just intentionally runs into Jordan standing there and knocks him pretty hard. So Jordan comes right back at him, gets in his face, and they're both really at it. I'm trying to get there. I'm the first one there, when the punches start, or whatever the little fight starts.
Man,
I was with Ronnie Nunn and Jess Kersey. So when it came out, I threw out Reggie, but I didn't throw out MJ. And I didn't see MJ throw anything because why? Because I'm not this tall. So I learned later I got it wrong to the game. Of course, the fans knew I got it wrong too because they let me know right then. I threw out Reggie Miller, who's in Indiana, of course, and not Michael Jordan. So as I'm in the locker room, this is another ending to the story. I'm like, oh, here comes the red light on the phones. Security from the NBA. You have to type in a report. You have to do all this. Security's going to call you. Okay, tell me in your own words. I just wrote it up in my own words, right? And now you have to tell them in your own words what happened on the phone. I'm thinking, oh no, this is going to be great. I'm standing there icing down while I'm showering, and I hear this guy, uh, my back's to it, and he says, "Well, at least you're not as hairy on your back as your father." And I turned around because my father has been gone since I'm 21, you know. So I turned around, and it's the head of security that I've known for years, Bill Mattingly, who happens to be Larry Bird's father-in-law. And he was in charge of security, but he never really said that. My father was like a orangutan, bro. I'm telling you. He asked for people to put on suntan lotion. We ran the other way. So it was the grossest thing in the world. So when he said that, it was a real obvious thing. They grew up together in Evansville. That's what happened. And that's the first time. So then after that, of course, Larry and I always had a great time competing. I remember one time running by, hey, Ted, he's coaching. And he's trying, hey, Ted, you know, I said, tell your referee, da, 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 da. I said, as I'm running by, I'm like, I don't give a shit, you know, Indiana slang, right? And then he cracks up laughing. Ah, he turns all and says, you hear what he said? He said, I didn't give a shit. Ah. He knew I was messing with him, right? And yeah, so you know, that's the way you competed back then. You know, so that's what they trust.
I love that. And let's go to it because we're talking about physicality. There was the infamous headbutt, the worm. Dennis Rodman comes up and gets in your space, leans in, and you guys bang heads. How did you see that happening? And what was your report for something like that? Because all cameras were on Dennis and he was under a microscope anyway. But from your perspective, how did you see that one kind of playing out as he was coming into your personal space?
Well, during those years, you know, during that time, Robin was really having a lot of difficulty, right?
Yeah.
And so we were just trying to take care of business. And I was a number two referee that game, is in New Jersey with all the bosses. Rodman was acting up most of the game, you know, early on, and I believe I assessed the foul. And I walked out. He already had a technical foul, and Hank Armstrong, a referee there, he was a great guy. He was walking up, and Rodman had both hands down his shorts. As he's talking to me, he kind of, you know, did this motion towards me, whatever. I could have been wrong. I don't know. At that point, maybe I was looking for something. Uh, so, so I really, to this day, I think he was making a gesture. But Dennis and I have always gotten along. You know, we just competed.
I,
Uh, so he came around. I was going to halftime after it happens, right? And I'm sitting there, and Rod Thorne rushes in. All the bosses from the NBA, Rod being the VP, and I love Rod Thorne. Uh, and I'm sitting there just like a normal locker room, you know, having my drink and towel, whatever. They come running in. I wasn't even thinking they were going to come running in. You know, hey, you okay? You okay? And I was like, well, I hope I didn't hurt her. You know, and that's what I always tell people. You know, that's my answer. You know, I was glad I didn't hurt him, basically.
oh, that's funny. Oh, great story. Well, I mean,
But yeah,
you came up.
let me finish Robin real quick.
Yeah.
At the end of that year, first of all, his first game back, they assigned me the game the next month. They turned out to be in the next month's schedule. They put me on the game. I could pull it up in Chicago, man. I walked in the back of that stadium, and it looked like a pinball machine. It started moving so fast. I couldn't believe people saw me, and they started moving. And I go out there, and of course, he came out and apologized. Hey, man, it's a basketball game. You know, he knew I wasn't a bad guy. But later on that year, he came running up, maybe a playoff game, came running up at me after a rebounding foul. And for him, he was easy because he had big clown's hair. So you can see him with your peripheral vision, you know. And so he committed this foul. He comes running at me. I said, "What? You want me to headbutt your ass now?" And he just ran down the floor. So yeah, that's how we handled that. Yeah.
I like that. I like it. Was it a challenge when you were watching Shaquille O'Neal? I mean, here's a guy, probably one of the most dominant, powerful big men, to call the foul when Shaq was making a move because you know the laws of physics. I mean, here he is, 7 foot, 320. He's going strong. People are trying to stop him. How challenging was that for you as a referee to try to make the appropriate call? Because it was like a gnat landing on a bull. Let's be honest.
Oh, Shaq, I love it, Brian. Everybody loves Shaq now, right? It's like what we wish for Kobe had he still been alive, right? But Shaq then was the most difficult, freak to referee. Like you just said, when he pivoted, somebody's going to bounce, and does it make it legal or not legal? You had to really be good at it, and know what to expect. His type of moves, he anticipated certain things. But yeah, it was really, really a fine line between an offensive foul. Believe me, if Shaq wanted an offensive foul, he's going to get one. And I'm glad he's a nice, loving person, because if he wasn't, he could have killed somebody. You know, with a foul. I mean, with a regular foul, not even a flagrant foul. I mean, and he knew that, man. He's just a big kid.
Yep.
And we see it before him now. My favorite show, I think, is the TNT show for years. I mean, best entertainment on TV.
Right. Yeah. There you go. There you go. What kind of, how about with Charles Barkley? Because I mean, that's a man who went hard and just competed. Does there any story that sticks out with you with Charles Barkley during the game where he was just in the heat of the moment?
And how can you not love Charles? I mean, first of all, I was at the U.S. Olympic tryouts in Bloomington watching.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him dominate that trial. He dominated, and Bobby Knight hated him. He'd take the rebound, and of course he was huge, and he just go the whole end of the floor and go, bam! And everybody, and he, yeah. So Steve Alford started, and he cut Charles Barkley. So anyway, you know, but Charles is just a real person. I had a game in Orlando, the infamous game where it was a preseason game. So we went out for dinner and probably a couple drinks, and not with him, but he was there. Yeah. And he comes over the table, sits down because he's just a real guy. He still loves being out with people. And he was there for maybe 45 minutes, got up and left, and that was the night though. Somebody threw some eyes, tried to pick a fight with him. I think he tried to get away from it at first. Once again, it's exhibition season, so so this guy picks the fight, and Barkley, I think, picked him up and threw him through the plate glass window, and spends the night in jail in Orlando. He gets out, and they get him out. He gets out right before the game. He comes in. He sits on the bench with a suit. Of course, we were nutting on him, but he got revenge. I mean, I had my whole family, my young kids with me, and wearing suits back then was an art form, right? I mean, going to the games and leaving the games, you had to have these suits on, and it's a great thing, but it became like, it was pretty entertaining at times. I was once accused of being a LA usher at a Lakers game for having a light blue blazer on, So, but I remember that, yeah. So anyway, it's just good memories.
Good stuff. I love these stories. I wrote down names of individuals, and I was like, okay, see if he can come up with a story for these guys. This is just my opinion.
Barkley saw me in this stupid looking suit with my family. Maybe a 5-button suit, like was fashionable, in the city, So I had this weird looking suit on, and he just starts nutting on me. My mom, my wife, my kids, and it's all good fun. I loved it. But yeah, that's the kind of person he is. Another guy, I'll just say real quick, Patrick Ewing, the ultimate competitor. I used to always describe him as the guy that if he saw you walking across the street, he would stop, yell at you, hey, so-and-so, just a great guy. And, when you first saw him competing and got out there to play, man, this guy's mean, right? Yeah. But just a wonderful person.
Yeah. And see, I love that because, yeah, we're talking about so many guys who were on that 92 dream team. And I love the fact that, you have so many stories of those guys that just love to compete. And that's what it truly is. They're just competing and playing hard. And back in that era, we didn't see guys and players being in control and teaming up like they do in AAU. So back then it was like they just wanted to beat you, whatever it took for them to gain an advantage competitively to beat you on the court. And you were there with the whistle during that era.
Exactly. Refereeing should be the same. It's the exact same mentality. And those are the people that should rise. And
Yep.
as a mentorship, we should be seeing these people and then bringing them along. I think Joey Crawford's probably number one guy in mentoring people in that Philadelphia area from his father to his brother to him. How many people's lives have they affected?
Yeah. Yeah.
In officiating.
Yep.
So, uh, but yeah, that's what it's about. Giving back.
I love that. How about, do you have a story? Because this is just my belief. I coached overseas for years. And of course, the number one sport in Europe is soccer. And then when the European players started coming to the NBA, of course, they were very fundamentally sound, very skilled. They kind of had the label of not being mentally as strong. But I also think, too, when that wave of European players came into the league, I think that soccer mentality followed them because you saw more embellishment and more flopping. How hard was it to watch a Vlade Divac, and who did a lot of flopping and is known for flopping? Was that a hard guy to really watch and see when he was embellishing and when it didn't? And why is it where it's at today?
I don't see flopping today as it was back then, but Vladi, I think that's where the film work comes in. You study people,
Yep.
and if you're refereeing that particular league, you should know who you're refereeing if you can. Other than that, it's one of those things you talk about in pre-games. Some of those difficult plays that we might have that, that's why you have two or three officials so that somebody can come in with a whistle and help you out. You know,
I like that. Do you like the 3-man system? When it went from 2-man to 3-man, and now you got 3-man with a coach's challenge and instant replay. Are you in favor of that? Because I know you guys just want to get it right. But do you feel like that puts more pressure on a referee today?
for some people, and for others, it's just part of the process.
I
We have microphones, and people are like, oh, be careful, we got microphone. So what? I'm gonna act the same way. So uh, for some people, yeah, they're frightened by that, but it's just what it is today. It's what the owners want as officials. They just go out and enforce what that league wants. That's what the fans don't understand, And percentage wise, if you're out there at 95%, say you're at 90%, and you miss a number of calls, and you have many more decisions to make, whether it's a call or no call. Those are decisions. So, you know, with those percentages, everybody would celebrate if you were doing any other sport and reaching a 90 percentile, right? And yet, for referees, they're held to a different standard. Fans just don't understand. I think education comes into play there, teaching them. I would like to see somebody produce just something that focuses on fans acting the way they do, bad basketball being played, and then challenging the referee. I mean, come on. I mean, really, we just turn the camera around from a referee's perspective, and we'd have a whole log of business. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny these days.
See, I like that because what if, just like law enforcement, they started having body cams? What if we gave body cams to referees so now you could turn and now you've got visual evidence to say, hey, this is what I saw? Because we know character matters. But if we could put body cams on referees, that might
Body cams
squash.
on That's funny. Body cams on referees. I like it.
I mean, why not? I mean, we're in this
Yeah,
technology age.
I mean, God bless this whole process, but you know, we're hiring people for all kinds of reasons. Things are being happening for all kinds of reasons, and you wonder, well, who's the best person out there? And oh, well, they deserve to be here because uh, they're a whatever sector of the society. Come on, man, this is referee a basketball game. Let the
There you
best
go.
person referee. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. And I truly believe character matters. And I know you believe character matters. That's why your answer a minute ago was, well, for some people, yeah, that may put more pressure on them. But for the others who are trying to do it right, and like you said, I'm glad you said 90 percentile. Can you imagine if a Major League Baseball player was batting 90 or 900? Oh my
900,
gosh.
right. Right. I mean, just translate it. And refereeing is just people out there competing, whether it's the youth leagues,
Yep.
and they got to go home to families. And people are getting threatened out there. It's just absolutely Scott Foster. He is the best referee out there right now. And doing the whole game. And things happen, but they're brutal with this guy, and he is a super person. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, where's the defense of this guy? He doesn't need it because he's that kind of a guy too. But you can make a whole series on that aspect. You know, I mean, you're right. I mean, every time you turn a page now, there's Scott Foster. Yeah, this right. He never 12-0. That. Absolutely ridiculous, uh, dangerous uh, social media,
Yeah.
in my
That's
opinion.
it's so true.
It's just filtering down to all the youth leagues.
Yeah, I agree. I love that. And another topic you brought up, and we've got less than 10 minutes here. You know, you know Tim Donaghy very well, and he got caught up and was caught uh, with gambling. From your perspective, this is not to throw anybody under the bus, but you know that man. What was your perspective when all this stuff was starting to surface and then you were known as referee F? What did that do to you personally when all this was coming out?
Through my years, I've met ex students that ended up with gambling addictions. I'm around friends that know about gambling, but they know that I have zero interest, and nor was I never asked the question. You know, I guess I was lucky and protected. Nobody ever asked me a question about basketball. Who's going to win a game? You know, and for Tim, to me, he was a good guy, and you could see him starting to have problems uh, before this happened, and you'd hear rumors, and so when it all happened, I know he's got four daughters, and and so I just related to all the people that I knew with gambling problems that I've seen, and for that addiction is just like anything else. I mean, it's hard for them to cure, and I don't think, and I also believe with Tim Donaghy, ESPN, the top writer, can't remember his name, he wanted to prove gambling from that Sacramento Lakers at Sacramento game 6 I refereed. So all kinds of talk about that. Still is. So I invited the guy to Evansville. And with that, I also invited Bill Nimnick, who's my mentor in Indiana and 10 years older, to watch the game. Indiana State Finals many times, Hall of Fame in Indiana. But Bill sat down with all of us. We watched that game play by play. The article got killed. The article was killed. He never produced the article because it's just untrue. And with Tim Donaghy, he he would he's one of those analytical minds. He would, he loved numbers. He loved, keeping up in everything. I just like to compete the game and go home, as Joey Crawford's statement. So with Donaghy, he's always into those analytics and things, that kind of mind. And and with his gambling addiction and his buddies from Philly, they get talking, I think, probably early on, but he ended up telling them which games to bet. And not only did I work on a lot of games up to that, but then NBA went back and they reviewed all those games. And I believe him when he said he didn't make calls to change the games. He tried to referee the games right. Because if the gamblers think that a referee's out there making a call for a reason, it's really actually right or wrong call when you go back. So you can't make a bad call and then say it's right because you want somebody to win a game. It's too obvious. So that's another misconception of gamblers. But Tim was proven that he did not, I don't believe, do anything in games to alter the games, and that he was just involved in the side aspect. And unfortunately, that's our society today is people making mistakes, including myself. So, it took a long time to recover for a lot of people. So, that's the real world. And what I see from that is when you're going up, people just love you to pieces. And man, they want to be part of it. And oh, what can you do for them now? But when you're having problems, first of all, nobody comes to help. Why? Because it's going to move them up. And even though they may know you're having problems. And one other, then after you have the problem, what I've noticed is everybody wants to tear you down because of their insecurity. So it's been at the top of at the height of my profession, I was probably the depths of my personal life. So it's really life is just a journey.
I love that. And Ed, Ed Rush always said, Teddy B is honest to a fault. And I love this transparency right now because right now you're being real, you're being authentic. And I applaud that because there's not enough of that in society. We are all human, we all make mistakes. We just don't want to repeat those mistakes. But for you to come on and be so candid and be so real, I think is a testament to your character. And I applaud that. So, hey, my man, I give you flowers. I appreciate your honesty. I love your insights and perspectives. And I truly hope that viewers will walk away from this conversation being like, you know what? These referees, they're real. They're humans and they have lives
Yeah,
outside of the game. And this stuff with health and safety and these threats on social media that we see, to me, that's bullying and that could be criminal too. So I would like to
that's
see us
great.
push
Exactly.
back on that and protect each other because, again, we're all just trying to do the right things. And yeah, we make mistakes, but you know what? We're trying to learn and grow and evolve from those mistakes as well, on and off the court.
That's a huge amen. Yeah, I agree. And that's just what it is, real life. That comes back to mentorship, you try to be valuable still, and it's helpful. What purposes do people have at age 65? And luckily still have some energy for basketball. Yeah.
There you go. I love that. Well, we've got like 2 minutes. Ted, do you have any last comments for gentlemen out there who want to become a referee and maybe just want to, be a referee at the college level or even get to the professional level? What message would you send them about their craft and their skill set?
Well, number one, get involved. We need referees and trust the process. Number one, just be involved. Find that mentor. I had Mel Redmond, who just passed away, unfortunately, but Bill Nimnick, Steve Bagby. I had these guys, and I would go to games, do my JV game, and I'd sit and watch them. I'd ask questions at halftime afterwards, and I wasn't in a hurry. I was in a hurry to learn. That was at first, and everywhere locally, people are trying to mentee up to the guys that's assigning the games versus the old man that they go out and have a dinner with after the game and hear from them. That's what it used to be. Crews would go out after to a certain spot, right? And they all have beer and pizza, whatever it was, coach, and you discuss the game. That was our watching film back then with great old referees or coaches. Even they would be there like in Puerto Rico. Yeah.
I like that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Coach Scott Field Show. And as always, I am honored, humbled, and grateful to have Teddy Bernhardt here with us today as a guest, former referee. We're talking from 1988 to 2006. He was out there separating fights and watching the physicality, just trying to make the right call. Teddy, God bless you, my friend. I hope we can cross paths soon. But thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, wisdom, and expertise with our viewers today.
Hey, mira, gracias por todo. Mira, ven Puerto Rico.
Ah, bien, bien. I'd love to come down and spend time with you, my friend.
Always. Siempre, bro.
God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, Ted Bernhardt here with the Coach Scott Field Show with just some great stories. Share this content with others to empower, and let's educate the fans, let's educate the viewers, and let's make this a more peaceful and have more harmony amongst each other, because we're all just trying to do the right thing. Live, love, and serve. This is the coach, Scott Fields. God bless you. We'll see you again with another edition real soon. God bless, Teddy B.
Thank you.